record.
Great. I turned it recording on the cloud now.
Sure.
Great. Good. All right. Well, we can go ahead and just get started. I mean, this is, I always find, I mean, they're great. You know, this is a time just to have a conversation to get our team that's, you know, everywhere all together to talk and just to share updates, but also more than that, to make sure we have plenty of time for you to share questions that are on your mind, ideas you might have, feedback, those kinds of things. You know, our agenda today is just a quick maybe introductions of everybody who's here, just so we know who's in the room. Some people know each other, some people may not, so that would be great. Then Christina will share some, you know, updates on some current initiatives, and I'll fill in any details too. But then we want to spend a lot of our discussion just kind of open-ended about the journal. One of the things that is a challenge for us is now that we have 500, 600 submissions a year, as an editorial board, especially our associate editors have to work with us to make sure we're not accepting too many publications and so I thought it'd be good to kind of say, how do we do that? How do you think about that? How would you encourage the journal to think about that? Talk about some future directions with our aims and scope, let you know about our handbook we're developing that is providing some resources, talking about the implementation of APA 7, and then anything else. So basically, leave plenty of time for you to share ideas. And so I know, like, our whole idea of online first came from Nelson having a conversation with me and Christina one day. He was like, hey, why don't we put these online first? And it like took us a couple minutes. We finally figured out, oh yeah, we could do that. And so those kind of serendipitous moments are great. But why don't we just go around and maybe each introduce ourselves, and we'll let me just call on people because you might be in different orders. So Natalie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Natalie Cruz. I'm a current PhD student at Old Dominion University, and my role here, I serve as the production editor, so working with the articles and authors kind of from once their article's been copyrighted to getting it out in official issue, and then work on some communication and newsletters.
Nelson?
Hi all, I'm the Director of Global Research Assessment here at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in the US, and Associate Editor, and research focus on international student adjustment, and then a whole other line of inquiry way outside of us on special education teacher burnout.
Great. Sasha?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Sasha. I'm right now. I finished my last year of doctoral in higher ed, and I'm right now at University of Rochester. And I'm interested in helping with like a marketing, social media, because I'm applying for the editorial assistant position when I saw this opening, and I'm super interested in any research in international higher ed international students related.
Awesome. Sharif?
Hello everyone, this is Sharif. I am also a doctoral student and studying educational leadership at Morgan State University. I am also at the end of my program. I am taking my comp exam in the winter and hope to complete my degree as soon as possible. And I'm also working for Dr. Bista. He's my supervisor. And thanks to Dr. Glass and Dr. Bista for giving me a chance to work something for JIS.
Thanks, Sharif. Christina?
Hi there, my name is Christina Yao, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of South Carolina. Obviously, I study issues related to international students, which is why I'm here. I'm excited to be here. I just got back from ASH a couple of days, just like a couple of you, and I think I feel the ash cold lurking over my shoulder. So hope all of you are adjusting back well.
Yeah, I hear people are proposing a NyQuil break instead of a coffee break for the next ASH, especially at the end. Yeah, great. Thanks, Christina. Lisa?
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I'm going to, in general, keep my video on mute. I'm down in Florida for my mom's birthday, and I'm calling from the rental car. I'm sorry,
You win the
but it's so great to see everybody, and so excited to hear and talk about these updates. Thanks, Chris.
Great. And then Krishna.
Hello, good afternoon. Christina, Associate Professor of Higher Education at Morgan State University. I always have a pleasure to work with a wonderful team, and thank you.
And Chris Glass, Associate Professor at Old Dominion. Always great to see everyone in the room. So, okay, so maybe Krishna, do you want to walk through just to give people an update on the, and I think this is important just so people understand the scope of the journal and what we're involved in right now, and some of the issues that you can contribute to and why we're doing some of the things we're doing. So, so do you want to share?
Sure. It's so fantastic to receive more than 500 manuscripts per year. For a fairly new journal, 10 years is nothing compared to many of the journals. They have been here for centuries. And also the wide range of authors from all parts of the globes. We have many countries representing different disciplines from education, psychology, social sciences, sociology, and other fields, which is amazing. The team in our peer review editorial board has been growing fast. We have more than 450 reviewers representing different college universities in the US and beyond. The other very exciting thing for us is having our subscriber. We reached more than 15,000 subscribers, and we have been managing them using MailChimp. And also we have been expanding our digital and print subscription to 500 libraries. Many of them have been, these subscriptions are based on our databases. EBSCOhost has been doing a fantastic job to distribute the digital copies to libraries across the planet. The website, this is also fairly new. We have migrated to a new platform, OJED platform, Open Journal System. And we have there more than 500 visitors. It has been just 1.5 years that we migrated to a new platform and having a heavy traffic on that. Regarding the scope of the journal, still we are sticking on two major areas, international student and study abroad. So these are the two areas that we have been looking, but looking around several aspects of international student and study abroad students. Mobility, it's a big one, and also looking cross-cultural experience of the faculty and students, staff who are closely working every day with these students in mobility, area.
Yeah,
Anything else?
Yeah, and just an update too on the different things that we've been doing. So if you've been to other meetings, you've seen some of these things before, but the idea is we're just trying to continue with these. So in terms of we're being consistent with a strategic focus, which is growing our network of authors, scholars, and leaders, which means especially reaching out. You'll hear how we're doing that to expanding our editorial team. Building a better and more seamless editorial workflow where we have quick responses within 90 days. It's a simple process for authors to complete. It's simple for reviewers and editors to oversee. And then the website is integrated into the academic publishing system. Diversifying our editorial team, we'll talk a lot about that today, and building international partnerships. We'll mention some updates related to that. Generating funding and support, all to increase the journal's impact, our speed and the experience, and then our reach as well. So, Christian, do you want to share what you have, what together we planned, but your vision for the 10th anniversary and what we're doing?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Glass. The idea of the 10th anniversary is to look into a reflection platform. So we publish 4 issues per year. Across the 4 issues, we want to reflect some of the work that we have done over the past 10 years. 10 years, for me, it looks like just 10 days. And did not realize that it has been 10 years being the first year of doctoral students. So it tracks my timeline as well as tracks my interest, and also this is probably also the best way to say that this is the path that something I envisioned as a grad student 10 years ago. So over the years, we were so fortunate to have every single individuals who have written at least a book or the most influential article on international student or cross-cultural studies. So they have been sitting on our editorial board as an advisor, reviewer, or editors. So we selected those individuals. So I think 15 of them have already agreed to write a piece on something international student or their experience on the area of their interest. So that's something we plan to include in our 10th anniversary, maybe 5 to 6 essays per year.
And here are the authors that have agreed, so.
Right, these are the familiar names probably you have read, you have cited frequently in your articles, and we will be citing. So we will definitely include them. Also, we are fortunate to work with the Comparative and International Education Society and also have our own SIG, Study Abroad and International Student. We truly appreciate the leadership, the willingness, and those who volunteer and are serving within our special interest group. Right now, we have 216 members, and roughly 100 of them are paid members within CIES. And also many thanks to the folks who were or who are still within the higher education SIG within CIES. That's there. And also we are planning to have a reception of the 10th anniversary at CIES in collaboration with CIES, SIG, Journal, and other partner association. So we are also planning to share the special issues to as many individuals as possible, depending on the available funding or those interests, those who are willing to work with us. Right now, we are working on the art design for the cover page and logos. Those are the updates there.
Great. We're doing all kinds of outreach as well, and we'll be continuing to do this. Our Global Connections is a newsletter. It's received a lot of great attention, a lot of engagement when we send it out. We send it out 3 times a year. In fact, Darla Deerdorf, if you know her, reached out to us and she wants to learn from our experience, and so we're working with her. Her initiative that she's working on as well. And we're trying to grow our Twitter presence, so I'm really excited. We'll be talking about our desire for a social media manager and how we'd like to do that. But if you follow our Twitter page, you'll see a lot more activity. We just added some cover art, so when people use the link from our website, it automatically populates the cover art, the kind of cover art that you would see when you go through your Twitter feed. And immediately when people publish an article, we send all of our authors instructions on how to share on Twitter and to make sure, because that's often a source for discovery. And then with the partnership with the CIES Special Interest Group, we've had a series of webinars related to that. So we're trying to make sure to do a lot of outreach. We're also recognizing our reviewers. What's great with our system that we use now is we're actually able to see reviewers that you rank as high quality. You give them a star review, that they do it on time, and that they are providing rigorous reviews. They're being selective. They're not just accepting everything or rejecting everything. And we're able to use that information, and we've selected some people this past year for an Editor's Choice Award, which we received. This is really important. Maybe you would think it'd be a big deal for your promotion and tenure, but certainly for some of the people on our review team, this is really important. They've asked for official letters from us. They'll ask for an official certificate, because this is really critical when they're going up for promotion and tenure, to be recognized by a Scopus listed journal. It's one of the ways that we want to do it. We want to make sure to recognize those reviewers. We've also, if you go to our website now, you'll see we've created special collections, topical collections and regional collections. These are to help our people who visit our website see the most cited and most engaged research, to be able to quickly find that. And then the regional collections is really a way to begin to provide much more regionalized knowledge to hopefully a more global audience as well, so they can quickly find things that would be related to their region of the world. And we've implemented that and encourage that as a way for people to engage with the journal's content. Christian, do you want to share an update on the Chinese language?
Sure. I'm in touch with the Mei Tian professor there, and she's working hard with her co-editor. They have finalized. Actually, next week is the the due date to turn in everything that they put together for the special issues. She has finalized 15 articles. All of them have gone peer reviewed, and this particular collection is coming out for those professors who have been teaching in China and writing and researching on Chinese students. And these authors are those professors who have extensively written in English and Chinese. One of the concern in China was that they have been writing a lot in different languages, publishing, but no publisher, no journal have given them a platform to write about international students in China in Chinese. So Mei Tian was a visiting professor, and that was a very productive meeting. We had a very fantastic meeting, and she is taking a lead role on special issues, looking into different issues in concern of international student in China. So entire issue is coming out in Chinese. Hopefully we can release this in a couple of months or so. And as a follow-up, she's also hosting a symposium as a part of the same, the special issues, inviting these authors, and then some of the branch campuses of European or American universities in China to run the symposium as he has planned.
Yeah. We also, some of you might know Sharon Stein. Sharon is a professor at the University of British Columbia. She has done a lot of work related to critical internationalization. She has a website related to critical internationalization studies. She's gathering a group of scholars in Canada for a symposium through a grant that she's received related to critical internationalization studies. And the journal in 2021 will serve as an outlet for the intellectual products of that symposium. I would imagine it's going to be a really significant for the field, and some very well-known leading scholars and some emerging scholars will be a part of this special issue coming up in the spring of 2021. We're excited to have that coming forward as well. Christian and I, just to give you an update as well, we're also co-editing this Routledge Studies in Student Mobility. It's a whole other thing if we were to explain all that's involved with that. But it is about a 5-year book series with about 2 to 3 books per year. And we have 3 books in the pipeline. Anything else you'd add to that, Dr. Bista?
I think this is a fantastic thing. Our post-tenure discussion with many of the colleagues and publishers, and also had a couple of rounds of discussion with our colleagues from the CIES, Study Abroad and International Students. So this is really fantastic to put together. And yes, thank you, Dr. Glass, for being a co-editor and also encouraging many of our scholars who are interested to publish on global student mobility.
And kind of a project that we're all a part of is building an open journals and education network. We'd be glad to talk about this more, but it's not just a website or a way to have more free download. It really is an alternative to for-profit, corporate-based academic publishing that I think we all understand the limitations of. And one thing I would highlight for our editorial team is often as an associate editor, you might be in a position where you think a manuscript is good, but maybe not something that you would recommend for inclusion. Now there's a suite of journals that you can redirect this to. And I know I've been in the position to suggest people submit like to the Journal of Comparative and International Education, higher education. And it gives us that option as well. Of course, that's up to everybody's discretion, but it's a growing network that we'll see. All of these journals are listed in high quality academic indexes. No journals charge fees. They all follow ethical practices related to academic publishing, and they all have blind peer review processes.
Yeah, and Chris, if I may add, I also like to share the good news that the Journal of International and Comparative Education, Higher Education is a flagship journal of the higher ed SIG within the CIES. And in our latest conversation with Dr. Rosalind Ravi, she was telling fantastic news that she received more than 100 submissions for one of the special issues. That is because we have been marketing, we have been promoting all the venues, all of all these journals in the many venues. So that definitely increase your readership as well as the manuscript that you are targeting for these platforms. So let us know if there are any other things that that would be beneficial, helpful for our readers, because one of the goals is to support and help the authors from the global south and beyond. Hopefully that will increase our partnership, collaboration, and give a space for our doctoral students, emerging scholars, and then senior scholar would mentor the other emerging scholars in the field. So thank you.
Okay, only like a slide or two more here, and then we're going to open it up for some discussion or some points. But that's great. I was going to just quickly update everybody. So some behind the scenes that we're working on is, like I said before, is we have a lot of data about the quality of our reviewers. And just to let you know, one of the things that we've done is we've run some analysis on our reviewers to really identify reviewers who have consistently rated as having low quality reviews, 1 star, and then they are consistently late. We can remove them from the system. That way you don't just accidentally assign it to somebody. And they're not necessarily, they may be listed as a reviewer until their term runs out, but in terms of them popping up as a possible reviewer, it's going to limit any kind of situation where you might assign a manuscript and not get a review on time. So please rate the reviewers when you get a review. If they've done a good job, it helps us know who's providing timely and constructive feedback, high quality feedback, even if the decision is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. As long as it's high quality, and then who we need to make sure just not reliable. Let's just say that. And the other thing that's been able to help us do, and I'll say this in a much more proactive way, one of the reasons we did this is because you'll see we're doing a lot of strategic effort to strategically diversify our editorial board, not to communicate any dissatisfaction with anyone who's here. Outside of that, we want to be very proactive in reaching out to people around the globe. And we've used this information to be able to identify people who maybe aren't on our radar because they're not in our immediate social network, but who have been contributing to the journal. And so each one of the people who's on here, who's done a really good job for the journal, who's been consistent and on time, and who will diversify us geographically, methodologically, and topically. As you can see, we knew all that information from the topical and the geographical information we were able to triangulate. We wrote them a personal letter to invite them on our board. And so we did that primarily to scholars who are outside the United States and Europe, and then scholars who would diversify us methodologically, either through higher level kind of statistical analysis or emerging forms of qualitative research and critical research. And so we sent out about 30 to 40 personal invitations. And when I say personal, it wasn't just a form letter we sent out, it was literally 40 different emails to 40 different people that we personalized somehow, and we'll talk about that. We had a great meeting with our advisory board that Christina led. It was really a highlight of the year for me. There was a lot of energy that evening. I think Christina was there. Christina, anything you want to report about that meeting? And these are the members of the board.
Yes, yes, it was a fantastic meeting, very productive in a sense that they gave us a new direction, what we would be doing in the futures. And actually, they were also watching us closely, our growth and outreach to many of these authors, as well as the topics that we were able to cover in the journal. And also they noticed our special issues that we published. So they are willing to serve on our editorial board, advisory board for next 3 years. And they're also contributing occasionally, the essays for our editorial. And they are also true ambassador for us in the journal, and willing to publish the essays for the especially for our 10th anniversary. Anything else you want to add?
No.
I think that's okay.
A quick update, and I want to focus on this for your information, but understanding that it's not our main focus. But our Scopus site score and our Google ranking are information I think it's important for you to know. Just to highlight, for example, our Scopus site score is 1.35. Teachers College Record, which I'm sure you know is published at Columbia University, equivalency is 1.34, or the Journal of College Student Development is 1.29. It just lets you know that anyway, the journal is, according to these particular metrics, as flawed as they are, it's demonstrating quality according to some traditional metrics. When we look at the Google Scholar metrics, we're ranked number 16 on higher education. That's the equivalent to the Review of Higher Education. That's the official journal of ASH. They're ranked number 15 with similar citation metrics for their H index factors. And only share that to only to say is that we do this with your volunteer power. We are the only non-corporate based board or completely gold open access higher education journal doing this. And I think it's Christina ran these numbers, and it was great to share. So certainly want to recognize you for your hard work in providing feedback to our authors and ensuring that we have high quality articles. Okay, so this is where we're going to shift over to some discussion, but just to share some things. But then these are some topics that we want to bring up, but we'll just open it up to anything you want to share. We have looked at the idea of, well, we're inviting currently assistant editors to join our board. And the motivation for this is a few-fold. One is it provides a way to mentor people into the associate editor role so they can see what's involved with the journal, they can learn how it works. The other thing is that since there's different structures to journals, we don't necessarily have a senior editorial board per se, a set of reviewers that are, expecting to get 6 to 8 manuscripts per year, and that you'll get a high quality review in addition to our large pool of about 450 reviewers. And so that's what this assistant editor team is going to do, is they know that they're signing up to review 6 to 8 manuscripts a year, and you can rely on them as an associate editor to really be your colleague and partner in doing that. And then if they contribute to the journal and they're interested in increasing roles, they can move on into associate level positions as that happens. And the other thing is our goal is to help diversify our board by providing the title assistant editor. This is particularly important for our colleagues in Indonesia, in Nepal, in South Africa, who are really where these titles are very, very important in their own evaluations. And so the deadline for that is going to be December the 1st. And they're going to, and so I'm going to ask in just a second if anybody wants to help review those with us, or if you just want us to review those, if anybody's interested in that. But let me tell you the main reason we're doing this, well, at least from my point of view, with about 500 submissions per year. If you think about that, let me see if I can show you the kind of graph here. Well, yeah, so we get about 500 submissions per year. We desk reject about 1 in 2. So we'll basically send forward about 350 to 250. I've instructed Laura to tell you kind of 2 things. One is, just send this out for review, or sometimes she'll say, before you send this out for review, here's some initial things to check. She doesn't want to be in a position to make an editorial decision. And so with that many, if you think about our editorial team, our current associate boards, we have about 8 people. When you take about 250 manuscripts by 8 people, that means each of us would be managing, 20 or 30 manuscripts per year. Likely you're not doing that. So I'll tell you who's doing that is Christina and me. So Christian and I have a lot of manuscripts, and so we really want to grow our editorial team so that we can just manage all these manuscripts and keep your workload reasonable, but also provide opportunities. Second is, so we have a workload kind of issue we're trying to solve, and also in grow. Second is we're really interested in geographic and methodological diversity on our review board, so that we can provide context-sensitive peer review. So ideally, if if a manuscript comes from Japan, we can give it to somebody that's closer to that context than in a different kind of context. If something comes in with a particular methodology, we're able to give it to somebody who has those kinds of methodological expertise and not overburden any one person by having a few people we could call on. And then to give you as to create this mentorship pathway. And so I don't know if you would be interested in helping looking at the applications that have come in. We probably have gotten about 15 or so far, 15 to 18 or so far. It's just a CV and a cover letter is all we've asked for. But you can let us know. And then I guess this is where I was just going to open it up more to just for general discussion and questions and thoughts, is just to let you know kind of what we're trying to do is our goal has been to, and we actually do a pretty good job, our median response date is about 45 days, and which is, if you look at what a lot of journals that are in our league, that's really, I think, pretty good. It doesn't mean we're always on time. We do have a few manuscripts that take longer than 90 days, but our goal is to try to provide a decision within 90 days. That's just an initial decision. That's not a final decision. Either decline or revise or resubmit elsewhere. And the goal is to have about high quality feedback, which means we're in a position now, and I just wanted to make sure the team saw this, is we are in a position of only being able to accept at the end of the day about 1 in 10 manuscripts. That doesn't mean your acceptance rate has to be that, but at the end of the day, we are, we're getting closer to that range. And so I think it's important for our team to talk about how can we achieve that, but at the same time also be inclusive in what that might mean. So anyway, I think I'm just going to stop there, and then people can, share their thoughts about any questions related to how can we be, any questions you have about the review process or thoughts or being supportive but inclusive.
Great. Please unmute your microphone for your comment third. I know all the microphones are muted, so yes.
Sure, I'll go ahead. And first, I just want to just a huge thanks to Chris and to Christina for all the work you do for the journal. I kind of assumed that you all had a ton of manuscripts that you were taking care of, because my workload is not, 1/10 of work. So thank you for all this, and I think that your plan generally, and others can probably give some better, more useful feedback, to have the assistant editor route help us, help you, and also help create more associate editors be really useful. So just wanted to check. So two things. One, it looks like in terms of what comes to us, if about 300 are coming to the, past the initial desk rejection and then 50 are getting published, yes, it's a 1 in 10, but in terms of what comes to us, basically 1 out of 6 is about the number we're looking for. So I just wanted to kind of get my mind around that in terms of what I see. I'm not thinking 1 in 10. Once it comes to me, I'm thinking about 1 in 6. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's one of those things where, 1 in 6 is more like a rule of thumb, as opposed to don't think you have to stick to it. Because, if you get 6 great manuscripts and Christina got 6 terrible ones, then you should be 6 for 6 and she should be 0 for 6. But I think you're about right. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure associate editors feel like is you have the authority to provide a desk reject or an initial decline without sending it for review. And sometimes you can do that with providing an alternative, and so that's another way to do it. So I would say that's as a rule of thumb, yes. And I think the only thing I'm trying to bring this to everybody's attention for is so we don't have a review of higher ed problem, which is, and I'm only saying that not because of them, but because it's easy. That's very easy for it to happen, because we all don't know what each other are doing in terms of our acceptance rates. And if everybody decides to get a little bit extra generous or something, then it just ends up delaying the pipeline, which is, we can manage that. That's perfectly fine. And I also want to say that on the other side is we don't want to, I think we want to be mindful of not, not having our attitude to be to seek to reject either. So anyway, but about 1 in 6 is, I think, about right. Or 1 in 5 or so, 1 in 4, I think, yeah.
Perfect, I appreciate that. And then how does, like, for instance, like book reviews, study abroad, reflections, does that count towards this? Or are we talking here specifically kind of research manuscript?
I think we are focusing on only empirical articles. And Lisa is here in the room from Boston College. She is assigned particularly for book reviews. She take care of all the reviews. She does the final check for all the book reviews. But we are basically looking into the main manuscript. That's right, Chris, right?
Yeah, Lisa, do you want to share anything about your experience with the book reviews? Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to just echo the thanks that's been offered already and say, I think seeing this sort of in graphic form, Chris and Krishna, is, well, it's just so impressive and maybe a bit scary. So thank you for all of the work that you've been doing to manage this process. In terms of the book reviews, my experience has been so far that it's more about working with the authors to get the review to a place where it's ready to be published, not so much about desk rejections or maybe rejections at all at this stage. And I think there's a heavier emphasis on recruitment for folks who are willing to write the review. I was chatting with Natalie a bit about this at ASH, and definitely would love to talk more about, ways that we might think creatively about this process of recruiting folks for book reviews and the copy editing process, and how I might be able to interface with Joy's team, which I haven't up until this point, and maybe that's something we can talk about offline. But did just also want to throw my hat in the ring and say that, I'd be happy to help with smaller projects that are coming up on the sides. I know there's so much going on with the journal right now, so please don't hesitate to reach out if I can be helpful in any way. Also, I apologize, I didn't really introduce myself. So yes, Krishna said, I'm a PhD candidate at Boston College. I write about refugees in the German, American, and Canadian higher education systems, and so nice to see everybody.
Yeah, and I should stop in this moment and let Ruben introduce himself as well. I think he had to step out of the room at the very beginning. So you want to introduce yourself to Ruben?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, I did accidentally. I got a phone call from someone else at the beginning of the meeting. So, my name is Ruben Rose-Redwood. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Geography at the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. So it's good to be here.
And we have also Dr. Samsara.
Hi, I'm sorry I had to join late because of a department meeting that I couldn't avoid that went longer. My name is Samsara. I'm in the SUNY system here in New York, Stony Brook University. I've been with Krishna, supporting Krishna from the very beginning. I think near the very beginning of this journal. It's amazing what he does and what Chris, when he came on board, has been doing. It's scary, yes, I agree, and impressive at the same time. Thank you. Learned a lot.
Yeah, and also edits, a very prolific author, and edits one of the journals on the OJED system.
And I was going to say, Chris, that because I have paid a lot of attention to that journal, I have sort of maybe slacked on the side of JIS, but Krishna has been telling, yeah, there's a bigger team here. Don't worry too much. Make your journal as good as it can be. So I focused on JIM-PHE, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Perspectives in Higher Education, Multidisciplinary Perspective in Higher Education.
Yeah, so yeah, that's great feedback from you or everybody too. I think we're glad to talk about any other things that are on your minds in terms of the editorial process, or questions you have or thoughts you have about that. Let me highlight a couple of things I think we could talk about as well. So one is about, how are you going about balancing this idea of being inclusive but selective? Finding, are you running into any issues finding reviewers? We're always trying to balance not overbearing the people that do a really good job, not rewarding them with just more and more work, but at the same time making sure we do that. When we bring the new team on, as well as we go into our next 10 years or so, your thoughts on what the important trends and topics are that we should be actively seeking out. if you might have some thoughts related to that. And then we're also, I was talking with Joy earlier this week, we'll be implementing APA 7 and thoughts about the timeline for that as well. And, you know, especially as it relates to, she finds at least the most pertinent part of that is the guide to bias-free language and in language that is now being recommended with the APA 7 that wasn't recommended in APA 6 as it relates to certain identities. And so, so anyway, I bring those up to only share the different things that we could talk about. So.
Can I hop in real quick about the APA 7?
Yeah.
I wonder if we might push it back a little bit as far as when we start implementing, only because I know I put in, or my office put in an order for the new copy and I still haven't gotten it yet. And I'd be concerned with the start of January 1st, and especially if you backtrack from that, the fact that winter break is, you know, obviously during that. And then before that is everybody's trying to wrap up the end of the semester. Before that, that might be people who celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday, is that if people are actively working on articles right now to try to get it submitted around that time, I think it might be extra work for them to have to revise into APA 7, which I don't think it's really significant, but there's enough in there that, you know, you still have to go and check and second guess and all of that. So I wonder if pushing back the actual timeline for implementation would be a little bit friendlier for people who are working on stuff right now, especially with the holidays coming up. So that would be my proposal.
I mean, I think that seems to make sense to me. What do other people think?
Given the short timeline of our publication, it may even be best to just implement it from submission level, like by updating the submission instructions. How long of a time is it between what things that are in the pipeline now and the things that are going? I think it's long, right? Is it 2 years, 1 year and a half?
Yeah, I mean, if you, it's typically about 12 months. So the things that were submitted in September will probably get published next October. So it's like roughly that. Yeah. So,
yeah,
I think we could, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Considering the time frame that we have from, you know, the article they turn into all the way to copy editing stage, I think this is a plenty of time for authors to make a revision, and those authors who are not really familiar or have not received the 7th edition, that's still fine. However, making a January 1st timeline that helps us to be on the same page author expected to, necessary that may not be doing, right? Some of them may not be incorporating some of the amendment from the 7th edition, but making a rule and policy in the place, I think this is helpful. And definitely we are flexible to consider the scenario and cases of our authors. So I think I'm glad we talked about 7th edition and you know, following these protocols. I think absolutely good.
So what do you want to, so you think January, if we gave like 3 months notice, so we put it on our website now, so if people are looking at their website, what if we said like February 15th or something like that, or March 1st? You think that would give people, like, we can say something like, we would prefer you do it now, but we won't, we won't require it until this kind of other date. I don't know y'all know what other people are doing with that?
Probably we are the first.
Okay.
Or maybe being first, to implement or to at least to talk about APA 7th. And Christina is right. Many of the authors or professors, even they have not received a copy of their manual. However, just listing, the requirement on the website makes people, aware that yes, we are, up to date on some of these manual of publications. And by the way, all editors who have been serving on the GIS will receive a free copy. I checked with the publisher, and I was the lucky one to receive mine a couple of days ago. So please, you have that privilege, and any books that you are interested or want to ask some of your authors to do a book review, feel free to email them, copy me, you will get a free copy that we are planning to publish a book review. And that same thing applies to the Lisa as well. Anything that you have been doing or or some of the titles that you work with Hans DeWitt or other colleagues at the Center for Higher Education at Boston College, please feel free to email them. They are then happy to send us a hard copy, complimentary copy to our authors or reviewers.
It's great.
So question about the APA 7 then. I mean, this is for just new submissions, but somebody actually just brought up that it actually takes about 12 months before things become published. So at what point does the journal shift to APA 7 in our issues that are coming up? Because that means that there might be some that are right now in the pipeline that are being reviewed or whatever that we may have to go back and retroactively change it to APA 7 if that's the case.
Yeah, can I give a concrete example that might help us to think about this? And so I'll give a concrete. So this kind of has come up from Joy in the copy editing side. So Joy Bancroft she's our senior copy editor. She manages a team. So and so she kind of queried us on this. So there's an example of one of our articles that talks about I believe it's perceptions of homosexuality of international students in the Philippines or something like that. And I think the guidance according to APA, and I forget the language, so apologize, I don't know this ahead of time, is about, it's about people who identify a particular way, or I forget the language, but the term homosexuality is recommended that it be replaced. And so she was like, should I provide feedback to the author? Anyway, and so that was, and so I think that article is scheduled to be published like early or probably like March 2020. So like in that kind of case, that's why she said just bring it to the team here. Do you want her to recommend it or just point it out and give the author the option, or should we? Is there a date we want to do? I mean, I think we can probably set a date to implement it. Maybe the beginning of for all, starting with issue 10.3 or something like that. That's next year. That is an issue that would be published on August the 15th. That gives us at least 2 more issues to go with APA 6, and we're letting people, because we're beginning to fill out 10.3. So 10.3 only has 1 or 2 articles in it right now. So if we switch to APA 7, it would give people heads up. But I'm open. Christina, do you have thoughts on that, or other people who've?
Well, I mean, I think the example you gave is actually probably the best example you could ever have, because I think that's the biggest change in APA 7, right? With some of the very minor stuff, like you don't have to list out more than a certain number of authors or whatever and stuff. I mean, I think especially related to the bias piece is that, my suggestion with that particular case is that we err on the side of caution of doing what APA 7 talks about. And the purpose of that is really to minimize bias, right, in our writing and all of that. And I think especially if we're kind of on the cusp of we're about to kind of tip over into APA 7, which the biggest change is that bias-free writing piece. I think we just slowly start that shift. And I think that would be something we start right away with that particular article.
Yeah, because she sent me 10.1. It's a 10.1 article, and the guidance from APA 7 is avoid the terms homosexual and homosexuality. Instead, use specific identity first terms to describe people's sexual orientation, bisexual, queer people, these specific terms, and it goes on. She quotes. So so that's what Christina thinks. I want to make sure everybody gets to weigh in on this in terms of implementation. So I think what we're proposing is that we go ahead and put guidance on our website that new submissions beginning in early 2020 be in APA 7, and then we begin kind of strict enforcement maybe in the later part of 2020. But then like for this kind of specific issue, maybe go ahead and query the author and make a recommendation sooner.
Chris, in terms of putting on the website, would it not be okay to just put it now? Because there may be people who are preparing their manuscript for submission. There's nothing that stops us from basically putting the language up now, right?
No, yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
And given there's 17 changes that are kind of major, one thing that we can just do is say, there's these changes, we need them all by March 1st. However, the priority one that we are enforcing right off the bat is bias-free writing.
Okay.
Right.
And I think she's provided some helpful links. People, you've probably seen these passed around Twitter, people like, here are the important changes that are out there. Cause it's not a lot in terms of the formatting, like a reference formatting or a citation, but it is some things that are related primarily to the use of bias-free language.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So we'll do that. I think we'll put some kind of notification, on the website in the next few days about, submissions beginning in 2020. We're going to request submissions be in APA 7. And I'll probably provide a link to quick guides about what that would mean. And then we will implement that in our copy editing process about issue 10.3, which is the issue we're just beginning to fill out now.
Sounds good.
Sound good. Okay. Other things related to, how you're, or the ways you think we should talk about, making decisions regarding manuscripts or being supportive and selective, or any issues that you want to make sure that we're aware of in terms of, finding reviewers or with the review process, what you consider to be under. The thing I would highlight here, I was going to highlight is we've updated our language a bit in our aims and scope to talk about new and demonstrably significant advancement, and that ideally the research would represent an under-researched aspect of the field. And we provide the language to be both specific but broad, which means a study could be technically excellent, but it's your judgment whether or not it represents a significant advancement to the field and how significant of an advancement it is. And then the idea of adding under-researched aspect is the inclusion part to make sure that if it's, we want to, we want it to be a strong consideration of whether or not the knowledge represents a country or context or population where little has been known so far.
I guess, Chris, I had one point here. So with the new role for assistant editors, I guess, is there an expectation for associate editors that we would select at least one assistant editor for each, as a reviewer for each of the manuscripts that we would be reviewing? And then also, are the assistant editors, are they in the database for peer reviewing when we're searching for peer reviewers?
Yeah, they will be. So we are, the application process is open right now. So that's, it's not going to be implemented until then. And then they will be in the normal kind of search process. In the guidance I think we're going to provide, and it's just guidance, which would be, we'll figure out the right languages. Ideally, you would have one assistant editor and then 2 reviewers. It ensures that you're going to have one high quality review that will be done. And the 2 reviewers, ideally you get 2. Sometimes you get one of those 2. And so it would it's designed to do that, like an editorial board. But I think in any given case, I guess if an associate editor, if you want to take a different path, it's fine. It just will be our recommendations. And it's a way to have, I guess I would call them like super reviewers or an editorial board of people that we can, we know we can rely on, and you can rely on to do good work. So the idea would be, and we would communicate this in a future meeting when this would start. So everything kind of stays status quo now, just assign reviewers because nobody else is in the system. But at some point beginning in 2020, the idea would be to, bring in some of these assistant editors into these editorial discussions so that their ideas and perspectives could be represented on our editorial board, and then they would be assigned manuscripts fairly frequently. I guess one of the things I feel like I run into, and maybe you guys do this already, is you can click on the little link and you can see how many times a person has been invited, how many times they've declined, and how many times they've accepted. And sometimes you'll see somebody goes, oh, this is the perfect fit. And you realize they've already been invited 4 times, and it's like, but the idea with an assistant editor is they should be expecting to be invited a few more times, whereas a typical reviewer, it's like we're almost, you know, putting too much work on them, you know, by just constantly inviting them to review more and more stuff. So
yeah, and
this is where I'm open to your thoughts on how to structure this. We've all been involved with different journals, and maybe you have different ideas. But in some ways, this functions as an editorial board for us. Ruben,
and one technical note I'd like to you know, share with you, that in the past, sometimes there were two associate editors happen to be together for the same manuscript, and we are finalizing that, and that created some confusion. For example, Chris Glass and I were together in the same manuscript, and that happened when we were figuring out how to manage that manuscript. So hopefully you will not encounter any other issue pretty soon. Or if you happen to see another associate editor together, please immediately let us know. We can remove him or her so that you have a standalone responsibility to make a final decision on that. And sometimes in the past, a couple of our associate editors were not able to continue some of the roles because of other pressure, you know, urgent issues. So we were taking, you know, overlapping roles. Hopefully that will not happen again.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, so is assistant editor the same as consulting editors? Because you already do have a list of consulting editors on the website right now. And also, like right now for consulting editors, it just has the person's name and their affiliation. But I think that would make sense to just include only that information on the website. But would it be possible maybe to have a separate like Excel spreadsheet or something that would give us a sense of what each of the expertise, research expertise is for each of the new assistant editors? So so we would have that kind of, rather than having to search always through the database, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Yeah, I'm sure we could do that. Yeah, I mean, every person has a bio and a profile, keywords. And so all the assistant editors will have keywords, and then they'll have a full bio. I find the bios actually can be as helpful as the keywords. But yeah, our goal actually, or what I would like to do, I see as a really important for the journal, especially as we begin our 10th anniversary. It provides a unique opportunity that with each of our new people that we bring on, that we highlight our global diversity, and ideally have a photo and a bio of all of our new assistant editors that we bring on, so that we can showcase to all of our subscribers around the world that, you know, someone who is, you know, geographically and epistemologically, you know, proximate to them is sitting on our board. And so, and then we can provide that. I'd be happy to provide that to the, to this team as well. And actually probably even have this team kind of come up with an official bio maybe that we can put on our website as well, so that the people know who's on our board. I think it's a great idea, Ruben.
Chris, one quick thing. I really absolutely love the idea of doing that. Then the journal would be promoted through the profiles and the stories and connections and the work of the people that join us from around the world. In order to make that even better, would it be, are you planning to provide any kind of support orientation? I guess we're going to go do a separate meeting for colleagues from new places, because cultures are different. And often when I do, you know, when I receive for my other sister journal, JM PhD, often colleagues from different cultures approach review process very differently, including, hey, would you be willing to publish mine? And I'm like, no, there's a process, right? Cultural differences, what we may see as problematic, are maybe part of the standard process and cultures in other places. So maybe that a little bit of that language or training or discussion may supplement to the quality of work.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can have a basic orientation for this group that we'll bring on in early 2020. It'll probably provide an orientation that is in part even technical, like how to use the system, which some of you might enjoy just participating in. And part of it is similar to this. And I think having this board talk about the editorial decisions and how you go about making making these difficult decisions is important. So, and then Ruben, you also said, I'm sorry, you mentioned let's talk about that, consulting editor versus assistant editor. So Krishna, what is the role of consulting editors now? And is there something we should do or that you would suggest?
Consulting editors technically are our substitute editor in case, some of them taking a leave for a year or so or busy. They're, plan B. And recently the idea of the consulting editor came from the work responsibility that they have been doing in our sister journals. They are fully engaged as an editor in another journal, so we are giving them technically a break, but we do not want to, we do not say go and so we are still giving them a venue, but we like to bring them back once they are a little bit less stressful from the other journals that are engaged. So we have a Rosalind and many other colleagues who have been in the journal for so many years, and probably it's a time for them at least to give them less work. So we are creating a different title for these excellent, colleagues still listing on the journal, as well as consulting them if we really need help in certain areas.
That makes a lot of sense, because then they may be like Rosalind may have kind of expertise that we want to tap into whenever needed. If her name is on the board, it's easier to go to her as a go-to person.
Yeah, so it sounds like the difference, and I've explained it to people, like an associate editor you're managing the process. For the assistant editor, you're primarily a reviewer, like you're providing lots and lots of feedback. So the consulting editor is much more the manager, but more like an ad hoc reviewer. I mean,
it can be ad hoc reviewer.
So I know there's different.
Yes, or they
an
can be
ad hoc associate editor.
Right.
Because the other thing we run into is if we get, with the supply demand, if we get a bunch of manuscripts that really fit really well with Sam's expertise, and none that fits Christina's, then we have to figure out where do we distribute those. And and Christina, but why you keep on giving me these? I'm not even, I'm not this kind of person. And it's sometimes the answer is, well, it's just because we just happen to be getting tons of these. And so it's nice to have this extra board that we can call on people, but it's more ad hoc. If people are filled to the brim already, a lot of it is to make sure that people's workloads don't get too much. So.
And the one more thing to add, this particular board, the consulting editor or the consulting team, it's very helpful for the special issue. Sometimes they need an extra resort for reviewing, helping them. And I've been helping for the upcoming special issues from Indonesia and China. Some of the manuscripts are in Chinese, but our team includes very diverse scholars who are expert in different languages, cultures. So that's helping a lot.
So just to follow up, so once you have the assistant editors in place and they've been put into the peer review database, do you think it would be possible to have a little note in that database stating, like labeling them as assistant editor, so that when we're doing searches to look for reviewers, we get a list of 10 different people, and we could say, oh, okay, here's an assistant editor that's part of this list that I've searched for. That would probably make it a bit easier to find which would be the appropriate assistant editor to select.
That's a great suggestion, Ruben. Yeah, and definitely we'll work on the technical implementation of that. And the other thing, I'm sure you guys, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I know, so I don't end up calling on the same people. I'll go to the reference list of the article, and if they've cited somebody from the Journal of International Students, I'll make sure that I'm at least seeing if that person's a reviewer that we can invite. But I agree that they'll be. I'm not sure how the technical implications are going to go, because I'm learning this as we go. But there is a way to technically implement that, where you can search for here's an assistant editor, assign. Here's a regular reviewer, assign, and do it that way. Great. I see, Lisa needs to leave early. I understand she's in Florida. Hope she has hope your mom has a wonderful birthday, Lisa. So thank you for coming. So I wanted to make sure to invite our is we do have applications that are coming in. They're due on December the 1st. I think two things I would want to make sure to share is you all have contacts, and personal invitations are the best way to grow our board. And if you know somebody you think would be an excellent addition to our board, I'd ask if you just write a personal message to them. It's not that hard to apply. Honestly, it's a letter and a CV. We tried to make it like all the information we thought we would need. But if you have somebody that comes to mind in your network, a scholar that you really admire, or emerging scholar that you think this would be a great opportunity for them, especially as you think they would bring some kind of diversity to our board, whether that be epistemological or geographical or topical, to do that. And then, Chris and I are more than happy to review all these ourselves. But I'm a big believer in the democratic process and complete transparency. There's no reason for you to, but I also understand how busy everybody is. And so if you're interested in being a part of this process or having, weighing into this process, I was going to give give the team a chance to share if there's a way you would want to be involved in this process so that there's transparency. In other words, you would have a chance to give input, or you could at least see who's applied, or you can be a part of the decision-making process. I wanted it to be democratic here. So just wanted to hear everybody's thoughts about that.
What if you just put in a Google Doc and ask people to weigh in so that we could weigh in as our times permit, maybe? So that you could ultimately make the decisions, but maybe with optional input from the team.
I'm
I
not
wouldn't mind sharing. Go
okay.
ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, I was going to say, personally for me, I will not be able to help with a review. That is, it's the end of the semester, and that's when we're doing all of our admissions for our master students and everything. So I'm not trying to slack off and not contribute, but I trust everybody else in this process. So
Sounds great.
I feel the same way in terms of time, but if you need any help, let me know. I guess I would add that one more thing. If everybody ends up being very busy, share the burden. I'll take some.
All right. Well, I think what we would do then, I would just propose, and again, my desire is to make sure everybody feels like they can be as involved as they want, which means if you're busy, then you don't need to be involved, no pressure to do that. And if you want to understand everything and see every single detail and read everything, to give you the chance. So I guess what we'll do is we'll make sure to share those applications with you so you have visibility. That doesn't mean you need to click on the link and do anything at all. But if you are, I'll probably share if you could look at these and give us your feedback by this certain date, you're welcome to do that if you want. And that could mean that you just share your feedback, just so you have visibility into who's applied, or if that sounds good. Does that? But then Chris and I would then make the decisions, I guess.
Yeah.
But seeking your input.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about social media? I always feel like Christina knows a lot about social media. But some of you are really great on social media. And I'm glad that we have different people joining us related to this. So I think the thing is, this requires a lot of attention, as you know. But it's important, I think, especially because Twitter becomes an important discovery tool, and other forms of social media, or people are just on different feeds, and so we, if you know, it looks like your colleague Krishna stepped away, I believe.
Yes, Sasa, I did not see her here. I was thinking of her. So definitely I will follow on this one with us, our editorial assistant, and maybe one of them will serve in the role of as a manager of the social medias. And if you have any other students or somebody interested in this role, probably we'll take a look as well.
Krishna, social media campaigns work very well if there are multiple, so one person leading it, but other people among us really posting also, so that it doesn't look like that one guy or one woman pushing, campaigning. So a little bit of collaborative community in a contribution in the beginning will model, and once other people begin to join and post and respond, then it takes on almost on its own. So I guess I can contribute if there is a lead person who reaches out to me and say, hey, then we could have this back channel conversation a little bit and some modeling of conversation. I'd be willing to help out that person.
Sure. Yeah, recently we have been constantly posting something, at least 2 or 3 posts every week on highlighting the authors or some of the articles or any information related to the aims and scope of the journal. And Sharif is doing a fantastic job on that. Christina and I also are closely monitoring and looking into the followers. So tweet is going well, I believe. Now we are going back to LinkedIn and Facebook site, probably sharing the same content, different platforms. Yes, I think that's something we'll look into more, I guess.
Okay. And then, I want to leave. I want to make sure, and I'm not sure if the team would find this helpful, but we do have a team handbook. I can send a link to everybody. It provides kind of step-by-step instructions on, how the process works and the review process. Helen couldn't be with us today because she's actually launching a new book. She wanted me to share it with everybody. Vulnerability in a Mobile World. It's a brand new book, and she's edited that by Anesa Publishing. But are there any other things that we should discuss before we go? I want to leave plenty of time for any final thoughts or ideas about the journal.
Chris, can you take back to the page where we can see Helen's new book?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Lovely.
That's a good. I was taking a screenshot so that she can see all of us.
Oh yeah,
that's a Christmas gift for her. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. And by the way, the handbook is really helpful. It has a step-by-step direction. And sometimes if I forget what might be my roles, then I happen to go and take a look. This is really helpful. And thank you, Chris.
Is it shared with us?
Yeah. So I'll share it real quick so everybody can see. I guess, can everybody see my screen now? Right?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is it. And I'll send the link after this meeting along with a link to the cloud recording. You can see we have helpful information here. And just to let you know, I use this all the time. So it basically says, when do we publish everything? When is layout due? When's copy editing due? And when are we sending out our Global Connections newsletters, things like that? What are the different roles and responsibilities? So what's the job description of a senior editor, assistant editor, associate editor? And then what are the step-by-step things that you're doing? And then everything in blue is the name of the email you send, and it's a step-by-step kind of decision guide of what you're considering and what the process is through the review stage and how associate editors do that, through how the reviewers work, what they're supposed to assess, what we do at the copy editing stage, how we assign people on the copy editing team, what a copy editor does, how the production process works, and that means everything from producing the PDF galley, getting the author to sign off on the proof, putting the metadata in the system, having that metadata go to Google Scholar, ERIC, and Crossref, and be listed, and including cover art design and other things that have to be done to when we announce the issue over MailChimp, and then how we send information to the indexers so that people find it when they do academic searches. And so if you look at your part for the associate editor, you'll see that the managing editor does this. I'm going to go here, then we go to the review stage. Here's what associate editors do. It just says, your job is to conduct a preliminary review, assign reviewers, monitor the process, read the reports, thank the reviewers, make a decision, compose a message to the author with that decision, and then if there's a revise, resubmit to make sure to monitor if the author does resubmit the manuscript, or let them know you're kind of cleared from the system if they don't submit the revision. So, but I'll send a link.
And probably the last slide would be something that we can acknowledge our colleagues and supporter. Again, special thanks to Chris Glass and his department, his university for the support. AIRC has been also promoting GIS on their homepage and everywhere. So we are very thankful for both our institutions. And as a part of the 10th anniversary, please let us know if your department or your institution is willing to work us or being a part of the 10th anniversary. We are very happy to collaborate on that as well. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We'll stick around and everything, but we have some great things to implement, and we'll be following up with you related to sharing the different applications, and we'll share a cloud recording of this as well as a link to the handbook, and then the things related to the bios and the APA, all those recommendations, we'll implement those as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris, so for all of the work that you have done. I learned a lot today. I feel like I'm taking a lot from the work that we're doing for the sister journal, but I'll also try to get a better handle on that project and come back and do more here.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right.